much. And I appreciate everybody being here today and allowing me to share with you about our ministry. I wonder, am I going to have the ability to share some slides or a video?
Yes.
Okay. I just didn't know if I had to be the host or anything like that. We're
It
all
should be
learning how
available
to
to
do
you.
this. Okay. I appreciate it. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and share my screen then, and we'll start from there and see how this goes. Bear with me. And please pray that my battery on my computer holds out. I made a major faux pas and left my charger at home. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Very good. Well, I thank you. You guys have been supporters of the center, I believe, since 2015. And at least that's what our records indicate. And we are grateful for your support and your love. Maybe it was a little before then. Either way, we appreciate your support and we thank you for being a part of what we do. We certainly understand that anything we do at the center can only be done because we have donors that are faithful to stand with us in prayer and in financial support. And to even be invited to share with you here today is just a reminder to me of how much your heart is for life. And you care about this very, very important issue that has been really politicized in our land, but really it's a biblical issue. I believe life is something that God has given, and it's something that we as the body of Christ should cherish. And so I pray that you will continue to be wonderful partners with us. And we just enjoy the partnership very, very much. And I just wanted to take you through a little bit about the center because there may be some on here that are not familiar with the center, or it would maybe be helpful just to be reminded about a few things. But first and foremost, our vision at BCPC is we envision a world where women and men are transformed by the gospel of Jesus Christ, making abortion unwanted today and unthinkable tomorrow. That would be a long-term goal. Let's see the Lord continue to work in the hearts and lives of people. And, for me, it's a heart issue. I come from 26 years of being a pastor, and I realize it's not just trying to change somebody's mind, but if God can get a hold of their heart, that will change their mind, because God is a God that transforms our thinking from our relationship with him. And that is key. And so that's our vision, our mission, which is a little bit more the day-to-day that we remind ourselves every day, is to empower women and men considering abortion to choose life for their child and life for themselves in Christ. And in our world today, it seems to be there's a lot of empowerment that's happening for women to say, I'm going to choose, and I'm going to choose about my body, and it's all about me. We want to empower them to choose life for their child and also life for themselves. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Some of our our values are love. And obviously, as we think about how the center started, and I'll talk about that in a few moments as well, but we want to demonstrate Christ's love to those that are facing a crisis with maybe an unwanted or an unplanned pregnancy. Oh, I'm sorry. Prayer is something that we also value very much at the center. And we believe that it's a key to promoting spiritual growth and to see that God would bring transformation as we would yield to him. Even as you folks prayed today, it's a reminder of who is God and who is not, and who needs who. And we desperately need him. We also value healing and to lead post-abortive women and men to experience wholeness and healing after abortion are one of those things that we think of very much. But as people come to us in their time of need, we know that there is an amount of brokenness that they bring with them as well. And so we trust that as God gives us opportunity to have a relationship with them and counsel with them, that there could be healing that's brought to them as well. We also value resources, meaning that we try to provide material support to them. We don't want them to just say, hey, I'm going to keep my child, and we go very good and go on to your way. But we want to show them that we support them for the long haul, not just for a moment in time, by providing material support as well as spiritual support for our clients, because they need that as well in their lives. And then relationships. That kind of works in two ways. Relationships like we have with you, donating church and supporting church, but also relationship with others that could be a resource to the clients that come to us and need support and help and all the various things. And one thing I really we're seeing a greater need for is to have stronger relationships with our churches so that we could encourage our clients when they're looking for community or somebody to be a part of their lives, that we could point them in the direction of a church, that they could get involved in the church and be a part of the church, and that the church would welcome them in and love on them and give them the community and the support and the love that they need as we again reflect Christ to them. Amen. And then our services, these are the basic services that we do provide through the center. One of the first things, if they come to us as a client, is options counseling. And that's when somebody calls us up or makes an appointment and says, hey, I think I might be pregnant. I don't know what to do. And they go through their moment of crises. Options counseling is kind of the beginning. It's the foot in the door. We also offer after abortion counseling, which is a growing need that we'll talk about a little bit more later. Pregnancy test, obviously that's a part of the options counseling. We want to verify if there is a pregnancy, and then if there is, we give ultrasound referrals, and so that way we can again verify pregnancy, healthy pregnancy, or if there's other needs that might be there. And that's usually when the heart or the mind of a woman changes, if they could see that ultrasound, right? And see that little child within them. And that's usually where the heart and the mind turns and says, I want to keep my child. And so that's a very key part and component of what we do. And Flourish Mentoring is something else that we offer as a service, and certainly being around them and serving them in that way is a way that we can train and equip a mother so that they can be great moms, because many of them have never been a mom or very scared about being a mom. And so what does that mean? What would that look like? Other things like material support, maybe through baby showers or baby boutique, where they can get the actual things that they need. And then education through something we call MIT, which is Mothers in Training. And so we actually have coursework that they would go through and learn about lactation consultants and those kinds of things, and how to actually be a mother. And then many referrals that we give through community resources as well are some of the basic things that we provide, and that keep us busy at the center and working to serve the community and the population that God brings to us. Any questions about that before I carry on? I just want to give a moment. Okay. Something that you may or may not be aware of, within the city of Boston, there are 10,000 plus abortions that happen each year right there in downtown, somewhere around this area. And, it's amazing to me when we think about what's happening in Massachusetts. Over 18,000 plus abortions happen each year, and such a high concentration, over half of them happen right within the city. It just reminds me that God's got us in the right place to serve him and to be a witness for him right there. And I thank God for the opportunity to be there on behalf of the churches and the donors that support us, and on his behalf to be a voice for life there. And so we feel very much strategically placed by God to serve in downtown Boston. And for a little bit of history, if you will, about the center, it's been about 38 years that God has been bringing help and hope through Boston Center for Pregnancy Choices, what used to be known as Daybreak. And just for a little bit of history, I'll pull out my history sheet here. In about 1982, a group of people began to pray and say, God, we want to make a difference, and we believe that there's some real need for help, and to help women that are in a crisis pregnancy, and to pray for God's leading. They began to search out what it would mean to bring something there into Boston to be a witness for the Lord. And they actually surveyed 30 local churches to find support and what they thought would be necessary. And as time went on, 1983, they incorporated as Daybreak. and they signed a lease, obtained tax exemption status, and they opened up in Harvard Square at 1382 Massachusetts Ave, and began to see what God would do. And it was in 1984 that they hired their first center director and started to see clients there, and begin to go through what we call options counseling today, and to help women that were found in their crises. And since then, the center has moved a few times. Today, most of you may be aware, but maybe not everybody is. We're located at 120 Lincoln Street. And so it's right in between, really, South Station and Chinatown. And so it's really in a hub, if you will, of transportation where people can easily get to us. Also feel fairly close to a hospital. I think Tufts is right around the university too. But ultimately, this is a place we feel God has directed us to, and we're happy to serve there and to be a witness for him in the community that God has placed us. And something that might be interesting to know is daybreak comes from Psalm 30 and verse 5 that says, "For his anger is but for a moment, but his favor is for a lifetime." And it goes on to say that weeping may last for a night, but there are shouts of joy that come in the morning. And that, I think, encapsulates the joy and the hope that we want to bring to people that come to us, that there will be a shout of joy, that there will be a daybreak moment in their lives, and that they would be rejoicing. And so I think it really does capture what we want to see God continue to do in the center and through the lives of people. And if I could just share a moment, so you know a little bit better about the center as well, kind of the motivation, what motivated the ones that started the center and really keeps us motivated today. This is based on faith. It is based on Christ and his word and the work that Jesus brings to people. We want to see God's glory shown. As we pray at the center, we're saying, God, we want you to be the one that they sense your spirit here, your presence around them through us as we minister and serve and talk with them. And that we want to also be a witness of God's compassion. And I know, if we're all admitted, back in the days, growing up in my church, if somebody got pregnant out of wedlock, it seemed like, oh my goodness, this is the cardinal sin. And, I know it's a sad thing that we certainly don't want to see happen, but to change the way we look at it is now an opportunity to show them Christ love, I think is so important, because they're scared. Many of them aren't following the Lord. They aren't living by the same standard in which many of us would say they need to live, so to speak. So to show them Christ's love in a time of crises in their life, I think makes a huge difference. And the goal for the center is to affirm that life is an option, that they don't have to choose to abort their child, and to eliminate what they see is really just a problem in their life. And to know that there are other choices, to know that there are people that can come around them and help them and support them because of the situation they're in. They feel many times there's no way out, and there's a lot of fear and a lot of pressure in their life. And to also let them know that there is forgiveness and there is reconciliation, and that God can bring them back to where he wants them to be. And so it doesn't have to be a horrible circumstance. This can be an opportunity to truly show what God is doing and how he's working in their lives. And we get to be his hands and feet in that situation. And I think that's a wonderful place to be. And so the results would be that Christ's love and guidance is shown to the client, and that seeds of faith are planted within their heart, as we might have opportunity to share God's gospel with them, or to at least be a light to them. And we also want to create a caring environment where they're respected and they're given some dignity, because there's not a whole lot of that in the world that goes around sometimes today. And so we really try to make that a major part of what we do, because we are Christ's hands and feet extended. And any thoughts or comments about that before I step on to kind of a little bit of a summary or an update? All right. Yeah, go ahead.
I think your mission is great. Without without providing a backdrop of truth, the
Yeah.
physical help is going to be limited in its value. And
Mhm.
I think that's great. How do you, I guess, kind of more in your services, how do y'all go about actually engaging those in need and finding those in need? Maybe this is too early in your talk if you want to
No, it's
postpone that,
fine.
but yeah, how do you find women that need help and be
Yeah.
able to start that process?
Well, probably one of our primary ways that we connect with clients or clients connect with us is through online marketing. You know, that's the biggest way that most centers are connecting, other than word of mouth that might be out there as well. And we are actually praying and exploring other ways that we can try to connect with people that need to hear from us. So when I talk about online marketing, we're talking about you know, a marketing company that helps us create a strategy for when people do a Google search, that our name would show up and that they would click on our link, come to our website and see that there's an opportunity there for help for them. And so that's, I would dare say that's a majority of the way that we connect with our clients. And then others come by word of mouth and just, you know, so it's those two primary things. And we're really, and I'll share a little bit later as well, needing help and looking for other people, volunteers that maybe have great ideas with marketing. We're actually thinking about creating some kind of a little flyer, or even, you know, like you used to hand out tracts back in the day, to have something that people could just have around, whether it might be in a church or it might be in a bus station someplace, that might be laying there and just remind somebody that there's something going on. But a lot of it is online, and you know, it's challenging, and it makes it really seem weird that that's how it happens. But you know, for me, I thought, how in the world does that happen? Was one of my first questions when I was being interviewed for the job. How do you get somebody to come through that door? But that seems to be the primary way to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What quick short follow-up? Do y'all do any active like scheduled walks or things in front of abortion clinics to try to catch people coming in, or is it more waiting for them to come to you?
We wait for them to come to us. We aren't in the sense of going in the community and standing in front of the abortion clinic like Planned Parenthood. We have taken a stance, and it's been a part of the center, really not to be, I don't want to say engaged because that sounds lighthearted, but kind of, we don't want to get out there and almost seem like we're picketing it or something of that nature. We don't want to go against anything that way and kind of stir things up. Although that's certainly a method that some people use, but it's not how we've been operating. It's not the way we've done it. And I don't know many that really do it that way, but maybe there are some that do that.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tony, another thing, I remember when we started doing this in Florida years ago, they used to, it cost a lot to get the test done, but now it's where people can do it easily. And it's not the easiness of the test, it's what you're going through when you're learning it. And that's what we have to reach out to reach out to young ladies and say, we care about you, we'll help you, whatever that means. And then we don't make a decision for anybody. We just call them to us, and we do what God wants us to do with the person making the decision.
Right. Are you talking pregnancy test?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I don't know many women that probably don't do a pregnancy test unless there's a, you know, poverty is an issue, something like that. But they often are looking for more verification of pregnancy. So, you know, I know when my wife got pregnant, we took 3 or 4 tests, and then you still go to the doctor and they do their test. And that's kind of what happens at the center when they come in. They believe they're pregnant. Either they're feeling something, they've missed a period, or they're needing to verify it again. So our first step would be with the pregnancy test that we would have done right there.
It's the giving of care that you're a part of.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we need to remember when you showing care. Sometimes people are offended by what you're doing, and you can't even open your mouth without making a mistake. But God still is there caring for us, and that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. And that's what it does for us. It opens up an opportunity to speak into their life and to hear from them. And so there is that care. And I thank God we have 2 licensed professionally trained counselors that work with our clients that come in, which is kind of unique for our center or for any pregnancy center. And so we really love that thought that they're there to do that, to be there with them, to walk with them through this moment of crises. And it really is a moment of crises. I'm going to share a story a little later, and you'll see these are crises moments. Many times they're scared, they're fearful, they don't know what to do or how to handle the situation they're in. And so we really become, in a sense, a little place of refuge for them. And I think the evidence of us being that refuge is seeing repeat clients over and over and over again. And they continue to come back to us for the many resources that we have, to continue to meet with our counselors because of other needs that are in their life. And I think you're right. The opportunity to share compassion with them from Christ is a wonderful and exciting opportunity. Amen. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to carry on then. Here's something that, man, has just kind of turned everybody's life upside down. COVID-19. I started working at the center, I believe it was the second week in March, and the week after that is when COVID kind of had broken loose, and we wound up having to actually shut down for a few months down there in downtown Boston because everybody was, we had this high concentration of it. And so unfortunately, we did temporarily close the center, but that didn't mean we closed our services. We continued on the fly to begin to adapt and figure out how can we continue to do what we do and be closed on location. And we quickly and swiftly shifted to doing telecom counseling and meeting with our clients that way. And that actually kept us up to pace with meeting people. And we actually found out how can we get them a pregnancy test so we can begin to verify things. And so we got creative, and we would Amazon locker pregnancy tests to our clients so that they could get those pregnancy tests and then give us the results and continue the conversation. And God really gave us his grace through the midst of it. I think our location helped. If we were living in Southern Maine, there's no Amazon locker here, but downtown Boston, we can make that happen and get that to them in a discreet way. So it wasn't showing up at their home, because a lot of the clients want discretion and privacy and things of that nature. So we were able to continue on doing our counseling very much effectively that way, and so effective that many of our clients are still opting to do their counseling that way. We are open back at the center. We opened back up in late July. We're open 2 days a week right now, on a Monday and a Friday, and the rest we are still doing work from home and teleconferencing that way. But we're finding a good ability to do that. And we did see a slight dip in clients, to be honest with you, through COVID, just because like most people just started staying inside, not reaching out much. And we saw that kind of across the board in the pregnancy care center world. But we also saw God's faithfulness during this difficult time. And God has been so good. We continue to serve the clients well and feel very positive about that. But we also found that God was faithful to us, because the big concern was, what do we do about fundraising? Because a lot of our major fundraising events were during this time of COVID, and it still is rather. But our donors remain very strong and faithful, and our fundraisers, I can thank the Lord. You see on the screen there that we were able to meet our fundraising goals, and we thank God for that, and actually exceeded one of the fundraising goals. And so God has been really, really good. It doesn't mean we don't continue to need God's help, but he certainly has been faithful throughout the midst of all of that there. And we had to switch up some things, come up with some new protocols in the office. How do we handle somebody that might be sick, or what if they get COVID, and things of that nature. But, distancing, cleaning at the office, and all the typical stuff that has become common for us now, we have happening at the center for us. And what was also unique is it wasn't just kind of shifting around COVID, but 2020 was a year of restructure for the center as well. Intentionally, we were going through a transition at the center. Obviously, Sarah stepped away from being the ED, and then I became the ED. And that was a part of the restructure that we were looking to do. And we strategically wanted to make sure that we were giving better attention to our post-care services, what we call them, our resources, things like Baby Boutique and things like the baby showers, or MIT, some of the other resources that I mentioned earlier, where she has come on and really gives full direction to that and really helped that. And so we have seen some great things happen that way. And because of that, we've seen some great results throughout the year. 2020 is a bit of a update for you. We saw about 170 clients come to us in their time of need. But what is really cool, because of the restructure that I think we sometimes can forget or negate, we saw over 500 visits from clients with resources, so if they came in for the various different things, and that's a huge number compared to what we've had in the past. So that's been a wonderful thing. And we also saw more baby showers in 2020 than we'd seen in any year before. We saw more after abortion counseling happening at the center than we'd ever seen in years before. And we saw more material needs being met through Baby Boutique in 2020 as well. So all of the services that we provide are free of charge. It's only through God's grace and the goodness of our donors. And we were able to see some increases there. So we rejoice that the transition at the center seemed to make a difference, and it has brought increase, and we thank God for that as well. And what really makes it worth it all is when you see wonderful things happen, like we saw in the midst of this year through COVID. We saw a unique thing happen, which you don't hear a lot about, at least I've been told, in the pregnancy care world, is that as we saw different clients and we had women go from leaning towards abortion or being abortion minded to saying, hey, I'm going to keep my child. We had 3 women, obviously none connected, but they made the choice to keep their baby, and 3 of them were pregnant with twins. And so we kind of just rejoice at the thought, that, we had 3 sets of twins, and we kind of did twice the work there. And so it was really interesting, and something that kind of made us rejoice a little bit, because at the time they were not aware of that. And just kind of makes you smile a little bit, and thankful that even though you had to kind of adapt and work through COVID, God gets you through it, and you continue to make a difference, and you see that kind of thing happen. It puts a smile on your face and makes you feel like, you know what, God, you're still doing an awesome work, and we rejoice in that. So anyhow, that's kind of an update for 2020 and how we kind of got through COVID and are still making it through COVID little by little. And it's kind of interesting in the office now. We kind of keep our spaces and things like that, because everybody wants to be safe, and we certainly don't want to put anybody at risk, but we're doing our very, very best. So step forward a little bit here with our strategic plan going forward. We certainly have 4 goals this year that the board has established. One is to establish medical services. I want to ask you to pray with us and ask God to finally bring this to pass. We are in talks right now with the doctor, and things are looking positive that we can finally prayerfully want to bring ultrasound into the center, so that we can do that instead of referring those ultrasounds off. And with that, it opens up so many more doors and adds an amount of credibility to the work that we do by having a doctor there working with us. So that's high on the priority list, and we really ask for your prayers in this. Another thing that we're trying to focus on this year is internal and external communications, and that's a pretty broad thing, but obviously dealing with donors, connecting with them, and also just dealing with some in-house things and working on learning some new systems better, things of that nature. Something else that we really want to prioritize on is equipping the staff and the volunteers to evangelize, to share the gospel. We know that obviously in that options counseling, when you're talking with somebody for the first time. Sharing the gospel is a great priority there, but to be able to do that throughout all the resources of the center, as you build relationship with them, as you talk with them, there should be more chances to do that as well. And we want to see that happen in a greater frequency. And then obviously we're also thinking and wanting to enlist a real estate committee to just consider again best location for the center. Our lease is coming up soon in a couple of years, and just trying to strategically think, are there other places you may want us to be, as well as does God want us to expand the tent pegs a little bit and maybe have another satellite or something of that nature. So we're just saying, God, whatever it is, we want to at least be looking and searching and see what he may have for us. And those are more short-term goals. These long-term goals, I kind of just said that as a segue, considering satellite sites. Something else we're really thinking about are after abortion services. And that would be counseling or groups and individuals. And that's a big thing that we see as a growing need. And also establishing men's ministry, because with every woman that comes to the center, there's obviously a man connected with that as well. And so being able to minister and to serve them, and then to implement a linear model, which is a strategic line of communication that would help us to more effectively speak with clients and others that come to us in their time of need. But on a real practical level, and as I speak to a church, we see after abortion counseling as a real growing need, something that's real practical. The truth is, and statistically, they tell us that over 40% of abortions that happen are with women that attend church regularly. And that's kind of a shocking statistic, wouldn't you think? That you would think, and we do have people that come into our center that are people of faith, and sometimes are leaning towards abortion, sometimes choose to still have an abortion. And that's a real heartbreak for me as a former pastor to think that that's happening. But the reality is 4 in 10 women in our churches have had an abortion at one time or another. And with a statistic like 10,000 that are happening in Boston, there's certainly women attending our churches that may need help and healing and some counseling to bring restoration in their lives. And I know as a pastor, I've seen people that have suffered with that and very much in shame, and they need healing. And that's another reason why the center is there, to encourage and to build people up and to bring restoration to them so that they can continue to grow in the Lord, because that can become a stop for them in many ways, feeling the shame of it and maybe that God couldn't forgive them. So that's a big thing, and it's a growing need. I think you might agree with me as well. I wanted to show our Sanctity of Human Life video. If you have a moment, we can do that. And I have not kept track of time. Where am I at with time, brothers?
You're fine.
I'm fine. Okay. Let me show you this Sanctity of Human Life video then, if I could do that for just a moment. And I need to screen share again. Oh, it's still sharing, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. It's
All
still
right.
sharing.
Very good. Let me show you this video. I'm going to have to shrink it.
You created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be.
Children are a gift from God. In fact, the Bible tells us that they are a reward, a generous reward even, and they are the primary reason that we exist. Boston Center for Pregnancy Choices exists to empower women and men to choose life for their child and life for themselves in Christ. But did you know that each year over 18,000 abortions happen within the Commonwealth? And of those, over 10,000 happen within the city of Boston. These numbers have got to change because life is precious to God. And we're the only pro-life center that happens to be within the city of Boston, and we are proud to be there for that reason. Our counselors, licensed and professional counselors, are at the center, serving and counseling and providing resources every week. And we're there to help mom and baby with the essential needs that they have. Additionally, we also provide after abortion counseling. We see this as a growing need, not just within the city, but also within our churches. Statistically, we're told that 4 in 10 women within our churches have made that very difficult decision to have an abortion, and they carry the weight of that and that burden with them on a daily basis. We are here to help with that. As you can see, there's a lot of work for us to do, and we need your prayers and we need your financial support so that we can continue to be a bastion of hope and help to those that come to us at the center. I want to encourage you to please make a commitment to pray for us, but also make a commitment to give today. Visit www.givetobcpc.org and give something today to help us to continue to do the work that God has called us to do in downtown Boston. I want to thank you in advance for that and let you know that together we are changing legacies and we are changing generations together. Thank you so very much. Amen. I really believe we are making a difference, and I believe that the difference made in people's lives is huge. And, I wish we could say there's thousands, but I do know it's kind of like the story of the little boy that went down the side of the seashore, and he was throwing in one little starfish after another into the ocean. You probably heard the story before, and some old man came along and said, "Hey, why are you doing that? It isn't going to make a difference. Why don't you just stop?" And the little boy said, he picked up a starfish and he said, "To this one, it makes a difference." And he chucked it into the ocean. And, for every one that we can reach, it makes a difference. And I do thank you for helping us do that and being a part of that. And it reminds me, this past year has been kind of an interesting one, as we've had many women coming back to us after some time even and saying thank you. And we had one lady that came back, and she was a new mother recently and wrote to one of our counselors and expressed how thankful she was for the center and how graciously she was received and loved on, and understood that this was a vital work that she needed in her life. And she had said these words. She said, the staff warmly opened the door for me and my soon to be born baby the moment we stepped foot in the building. And she said that she felt there was no judgment and there was overwhelming support. And I thought, man, that's a great testimony to hear from a client that comes in there, to know that they were loved without judgment. And I think that's the big thing that they need to understand when they come in, that there is no judgment there. But I wanted to just share a brief thought today. And if you want to look in your Bibles, it's in Psalm 139 today, and I don't have a lot of time left, I understand. And so I just want to share a brief thought with you about the sanctity of human life. I know we're a couple weeks late on that, but that was intentional since I was coming on here in February. But when we think about the sanctity of human life, we see many scriptures. You read some of them today, but in Psalm 139 and verse 13, it says, "For you formed my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb, and I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and I know this very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All my days were written in your book and ordained for me before one of them came to be. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful reminder that God has created life. Amen. I mean, if we've read any part of Genesis, we know that he's created life. And we read Genesis 1, that thought of Imago Dei, created in the image of God, that it's just not, by happenstance or whatever. We are created in his image to carry him, if you will, to live for him in this world too. But I wanted to ask a question and kind of be interactive with you today and allow you to talk back. What do you think is the most common reason mothers have abortions, or maybe would think or consider an abortion? Make sure you unmute yourself.
Well, I think one possibility is something that was hinted at in the presentation was that they feel like, depending on their point of view, that now they've been ruined. They're no good anymore. No man would want to marry them. They're damaged goods. I think that's one perspective. Maybe not as much today, but certainly in the past, definitely.
Yeah.
I guess similar to that, I think I would think that fear. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. I don't want it to get in the way of what all my plans now are going to have to change. And if I could just make this go away, I don't have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I would think something along the fear line, but.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yes, what Chris is saying, that it's the idea they don't have any other options.
Yeah.
I guess they also have a wrong love for the unborn child. You think I can take care of it. I can really handle it.
Mm.
So I love it, and that's why I don't want it.
Mm. Yeah. I think you guys are right, hitting it right on the head. From our experience, when we see somebody come to the center, it's usually very much in fear. We use words like crises or unplanned because they weren't ready for this. They weren't preparing it. They were just living life and doing what they wanted. And now they're in this situation and they're scared. Many times they don't know what to do or how to handle things. I think it was mentioned, years ago, it would seem like there's this shame. We don't see that as much anymore today in the world. I mean, everything is kind of out there, but the truth is plain interference with life too. Sometimes it's not enough. What's sometimes sad is when you see somebody come in, they already have a couple children and now they don't want another one. Inconvenience, another reason. And that's kind of eye-opening for many of us. I think it's kind of shocking and almost makes you sit back in your chair and wonder what's going on. But for the most part, fears are imposed, and there's a lot of pressure that the women are being put under to have an abortion, from a boyfriend or the dad in the situation, maybe other family members saying this is going to ruin your life. You just need to get rid of this, put this behind you so you can go on, you can do whatever you were going to do with life. Man, there's a lot of things that go on. I was going to show you a little video clip, but I don't know if you saw the gala video that we had, and we had a little vignette at the beginning of what goes through a woman's mind. I don't have the time to show that to you now, but man, it's a lot that goes through their mind. And so we really need to pray that God would impact the hearts and the minds of the women that we come into contact with, that he would turn their minds and that they could see there is a way. And that's one of the things our counselors try to help them to understand, that though there's a lot of fears, and we know in the world that we live in, the enemy uses fears, doesn't he? He's always trying to get us to respond in fear so that he can control what we do. And we try to let them know there is a possibility this can work. And that's why we're here, to help you, provide you things, to give you emotional or support, spiritual support, so that they can continue on. But overall, we need God's help in this country because there's a lot of fears and a lot of pressures that the world would impose upon them. And when I think about abortion, I think about how great this thing is happening in our world in a negative sense. And have you heard it considered like a Holocaust? Have you ever heard that kind of equation? How does that make you feel when you hear that? Is that something negative in your heart or kind of positive? How do you feel when you hear that connection?
Accurate and horrible.
Mm.
My heart just is filled with compassion, not obviously for the children who will never get to see the life that was intended for them, but also for, like you said, the women and men who are at some point realize what they have done and then have all of this guilt and the natural consequence that God gives for taking a life, does come upon them, and then they have to figure out how to deal with that. And there's not much support in our society for working past that, because abortion is put out as this simple solution, which is really not.
Yeah, it leaves a lot of long-term trauma that they're not aware of. That's some of the stuff that we talk about at the center as well with them. It's not as easy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you also have a ministry to reach out to women, young women or other women in every situation, but probably especially young women, what the consequences are of getting pregnant so they do not get pregnant? So more education in schools, more availability, accessibility to prevention of pregnancy, and maybe with all the rich information you have telling them what trauma it will be if you're pregnant, so they don't get pregnant.
Yeah. Well, we do see ourselves in a sense like an education center, because a lot of the stuff that's out in the media, take a pill, have an abortion, it's done, it's pretty easy, within a couple hours it's over. That is not the case. We know better, and it's proven. And so that's something that we certainly understand. And even like you said, I think even getting ahead of it a little bit in education, if you can, and this is where partnership with churches, other ministries is helpful. Speak to youth groups, to speak to school assemblies, things of that nature, to talk about purity and abstinence and things of that nature is a really important thing, because the structures of our world are so broken right now. And we really need God's help. And that's something we try to do. We do have somebody in particular that does those kinds of presentations on behalf of the center. And so it's something we need to work towards, and we continue to strive so that we can try to get ahead of it, like you're saying. And I appreciate that so very much, because there's a lot of truth in that.
And also, I'm a believer, and I do believe in purity and all that. But on the other hand, if you also have to educate them about sexuality and give them the resources to have prevention, because if they say, "Oh, I will be pure," and then they do it anyway, then they get pregnant, instead of having the right knowledge and saying, well, I have to make a decision, and if I do it the right way. I prevent a pregnancy if I choose to, even though I shouldn't, maybe from my beliefs point of view, but I'm going to have sex, so I should prevent the pregnancy. So just saying, be pure, and then they fall into the trap, and then they get pregnant. I think that is also a dangerous circle.
Absolutely. There's a cycle there, you're saying. Yeah. Agreed.
And I had another question you asked about support afterwards, working with the counseling the women and maybe also men who did go through abortion or not abortion, having a child. Are those counselors, would they have to be professionals, or is that just people who care about other people, or?
Mhm. I at many centers that I'm aware of have volunteers that come in and are trained what to say, and that's that linear model concept that I mentioned earlier. In our center, they are licensed professional counselors with master's degrees. It's a uniqueness about our center, which is something we enjoy, we like, and so it's a privilege. But I think there's also room for a volunteer advocate at the same time. That's what we would call them, are advocates. And many centers overall operate that way too, that people that have a heart to speak to others, to show Christ's love to them, can do that and be there for them on that level. And I think as God would maybe possibly expand our center to have another location, that might be a need for us in the future. And I think that's something that at least my heart is thinking down the road, that is something useful, because obviously having paid staff with, degrees like that, it can get costly if you want to add more and more and more on. But certainly there are people, probably some within this meeting right here, that would have a heart to share and to be a part of that ministry in that way too. And we're seeing that also with post-abortive counseling, that we're beginning to start training people that could help out in that way as well. Mhm.
Are you also working together with adoptions agencies?
So we don't do anything like that, but we would refer them to somebody for adoption agencies so that they could do that if they would choose to do that. Although that's not a common choice from what I understand. But it is an option that we would certainly refer them to go through an adoption agency. And I think many times that's a great choice.
Tony, back about, I guess it's been 20 years ago, Daybreak was actually doing counseling training for people that were interested in doing, I guess, more of what you're calling a linear model. And so is that something, it sounds like that's something you hope to return to as you expand?
Well, that's what I would see as an option for us. It's probably a longer term down the road, again, because you wouldn't be able to have trained counselors coming in. And I think the trained counselor piece kind of happened along the way since that 20 years ago range. I'm not thoroughly involved in, I guess, mindful of all the history and how it's gone through the years. But I think right now, the way it's working for us is good. But I think as we would expand, there would be a need for that. Absolutely. And I even want to be prepared. I said to one of my counselors the other day, what would we do if both you and the other one got sick with COVID? We need to have other people in place so that we could continue. And fortunately, we've only had one staff member have COVID in the course of all this. So we've done really well, but they didn't pick it up from our center, by the way, either. That was on their own. But I think we need to think like that and be aware and be prepared.
So I'll give you one anecdote, which may be helpful along the linear model. Our congregation got involved with Daybreak through a young lady who's actually lives out west now, but she was one of the counselors helping out with that model. And my wife also was trained 20 something years ago with you. And that's
wow.
I introduced our congregation to Daybreak. And then later when we started regular giving, that was our connection. So anyway, it has some corollary benefits also there.
Absolutely. Well, I think involvement, having volunteers participating, and thank you for being involved for so long. I guess my data was wrong. I just went back and looked at the donors list and get the information, but sounds like you've had a long, long history, and I appreciate that. But I think that matters. Having volunteers participating, it connects the people, and we have some awesome volunteers. I mean, there's the people that really love what's happening and love the center and love the work there. And it's been impressive to me in my short time there.
I also think this is a great work. And I was wondering, I don't know if you said it and I missed it, but how many women do you see? I don't know, per year or whatever the numbers are.
Sure. I think I shared earlier, and I probably went through it very fast. We had about 170 visits come in for clients. And then, of course, they multiply, and that's why we had over 500 different visits. But it goes up and down each year. It seems to fluctuate up and down as I go back and look at the statistics. You know, some years you might have 200, some years you might have 150. So in that range, I think it was in that 170 range. Don't quote me on that, but that was what I have found for our statistics this past year in 2020. Yeah, I should transition. Are there any other Q&A questions that I could help you with? I probably have gone way over time, and I apologize.
Do you witness to pregnant women?
Absolutely. That is our heart. And that is something we pray about every day, is the opportunity to share the gospel with them. And that's part of the mission, right? That we would be able to, you know, not just have them choose life for their child, but choose life for themselves. And so that's the other side of the coin that we are working to do better at, and to equip our staff and our volunteers to share faith with them. And so in every conversation, there is a spiritual conversation, but we want to even get a little deeper and share the gospel a little bit more determinedly. And so we do that. I just want to see that improve. I guess that's the old pastor heart in me, want to see that do a little bit stronger. Not that we're failing at it now, but we want to get better at it, because that's a huge part. That's 50% of our mission. Absolutely. And also see other opportunities when it can be done, not just in the counseling room, but when you're giving them material needs, that they visit the baby boutique and come in and sort through what they might like. There's a great opportunity to talk about the Lord then too.
So Tony, can you provide us, I mean, if we were to call the center today and said, hey, I'm here, I'm wanting to help, what can I do?
Yeah.
What would be the top 5 things or more that
Sure.
something practical that we could jump in on?
Okay, absolutely. I did have a slide for this, but I'll just kind of read it off for you. I like seeing everybody's faces, not just my slides, so forgive me for that. But, you know, there is a list of things that we need help with. Let me just give you the quick list. We need receptionists that would come in, they would check in the clients, do some paperwork and things of that nature. Cleaning at the center is very helpful. Baby shower hosts, which is a big thing, you know, and I think a great way for a church to get connected with a client, because what we've seen really excitingly happen is how a woman would have a baby shower and a church hosted it for her. And we've been doing them through Zoom and just shipping all the gifts to them and having that time shared on Zoom together. That's a great way to connect, so that there can be now a new connection there. But baby showers, mother and training facilitators that would help train new mothers, what it can be like, what it will be like as a mother, hotline counselors, transportation assistants. Sometimes we need to get things to the clients, or a client might need a ride to an ultrasound, things like that. After abortion facilitators, like I said, is another way that people can help talk with people and bring healing. Flourish mentors, which is mentoring a new mother, you know, months into their new child. You know, if they got a crisis, I don't know what to do, my baby's crying all the time, and can give a call, that would be a wonderful way. Baby boutique assistants and leaders. Some things that we're really saying we want to steer more people. Anybody can help with event planning. Because of our fundraisers, and we have like the gala coming up, event planners will be great. Another thing we're looking for always, anybody that can do graphic arts, if there's some people with some gifts in that, that would be really helpful to us. And then, like I said, marketing, we're always looking at new ways we can try to get our name out as a center and to share about what the Lord is doing.
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
very, very helpful, very helpful.
absolutely.
Can we have that list somehow so we can?
I could certainly email that. I'll email it back to the brothers that I had been back and forth about this meeting, if that's okay. And it's a two-sided list. In fact, I got one right here. So it's right here, and there's 2 sides to it with a little bit of responsibility explanation and requirements.
I just follow-up question. We are in Melrose, so do you have people from the agglomeration of Boston?
Yeah.
And if there are people from Melrose, you know, maybe then we could get active and work with them in that area or in the area we live in. We live in Beverly, which is not that close of Melrose.
Absolutely.
So
Are you talking work with clients?
well, yeah, well, probably everything that is not in the building, like showers, like phone
Yeah,
calls, like
you
helping
certainly can
people
do
in the
that.
area, driving back and forth and all that kind of things.
Easily can do that. That's what we're looking for. And in fact, we're going to start calling through our churches to get some updated information because we want to be able to connect, because we'll have clients that come from all over the Boston area, not just downtown, but the whole area. And we want to be able to refer them back to folks that could help them out. So yeah, you don't have to be in downtown Boston, because not all of our clients are from downtown Boston. Yeah.
So I had another question. We've been praying for a while about once we heard the idea of the stork van, and it would love to see something like that. However, hearing some of your long range planning, it sounds like the next big step is being able to actually have medical services on site.
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious from a long term 10-year roadmap. Do you believe there's intrinsic value to your organization, big value in having a stork van over having just it on site? Does that actually work with y'all's ministry and with the way the culture is and the privacy and a lot of these other concerns? Do you think it would be effective in Boston?
Absolutely. We did have 2 mobile units not too long ago. You may or may not be aware of that, but we had to sell them because we thought, well, that'll be an alternative to being able to do it in the center. But the challenge is, at least in Boston and Massachusetts, you couldn't operate a mobile unit like a stork van without having a brick and mortar clinic or doctor's office connected to it. So we wound up selling our units. And in fact, they just paid off the vans. The people that bought it was another pregnancy center in Connecticut. And he wrote me a letter about how they've used that van to reach out to their community, to colleges. They literally go park it on the college campus and are there once a week or once a month. And it changes now with COVID a little bit, but they have found it to be a very, very useful way to basically have a satellite someplace else, meet a need, do an ultrasound, and begin to have that conversation. And I think that would be something we would be open to, but we've got to get over the first hurdle of the medical piece for us in order to be able to legitimize having that stork van or mobile unit, because it has to be connected to that kind of thing. And another challenge for us was obviously, where do you park it? With our center in downtown Boston, there's no parking spots, that none of us have as because you're a resident here. There's none of that for us. So we'd have to find a place logistically to place that, which I'm sure a partnering church would be happy to do that for us and things of that nature. But until we get our medical piece fully up and going, which I'm praying and trusting this is going to be the year. But once we get there, then we can expand on and see what else God has in store.
Sounds good. What's in the way with the medical at the moment?
Right now, it's a conversation with the doctor and working out all the finer details that we can come to agreement together. We do have a doctor we're talking with. This is kind of like insider information since you got me today. So we're trying not to broadcast it. We don't want to build everybody's hopes up. And then if it doesn't work, because it's happened before with us, but we are in talks with a doctor that is very interested in working with us. And we just have to come up with some fine details. And we're almost to the point, I believe, we can kind of sign something together and work there. I just have to work on one more detail this week by calling one of our lawyers just to ask another probing question or two. And then we can hopefully, in a short amount of time, get something going there in the office is the goal. And we have an ultrasound machine. We did a build out, and I think the build out was completed at the beginning of 2020, if I'm not mistaken, through the fall of 19. And so we have an ultrasound office and a little doctor's office. We're just waiting for the doctor. And so we're really close. I believe God's going to bring this about, and I'm hopeful and I'm praying, and I trusting no disappointments, Lord.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to wrap up my presentation with that. I apologize. I feel like we got caught up in some other things, but I love the interaction and the conversation very, very much. Are there any other questions?
Don't apologize. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. I did have a little more by way of devotion, but I was feeling like our time was getting eaten up. So my apologies there.
Well, thank you very much. We
Absolutely.
appreciate the sharing of the ministry, and we definitely have some practical things we can take to heart, pray about, and
Yeah.
hopefully engage with you and help more to continue this ministry of that's so critical locally.
I appreciate it. I thank you for your partnership through the years, and just to learn a little bit more about how closely you've been affiliated with the center. It means a lot to know that. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart for the opportunity to come and share with you. It's been a real privilege today.
Thank you.
And know you can always give me a call or reach out with an email as well if you have other questions or anything I can do to help keep that connection.
That's good. We plan to post the ideas that you've put out onto our kind of a missions area of our website, so that
Okay.
those in our body can be aware and more explicitly a month down the road and 2 months down the road and call in. So if as those things adjust, let us know and we will tweak our website to reflect that.
Okay. Yeah, my list doesn't include the couple little things I mentioned, but I'll put those in the email as well. And we have a great volunteer coordinator that will love to go through the process and what we call onboard you and get you to be a part of what's happening.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we'll move on.